to the death. How real is the prospect of civil war, given that nobody seems to be wanting to give an inch?
Well, I mean, I think what you described is not something that's a prelude to civil war. It's a prelude to an all-out war against Gaddafi, the people against Gaddafi. And I think that's what's unifying the people. So therefore, I think the conclusion is the possibility of civil war only exists if Gaddafi remains, God forbidding. So, excuse me. The civil war scare tactic, as well as the fundamentalist scare tactic and the oil scare tactics and all of these different scare tactics that he either directly or indirectly mentioned in his speech, these are things that Gaddafi is using to try to convince the international community as well as Libyans inside that my presence is your stability, which nobody believes right now. That wall of fear that he was able to use as a scare tactic doesn't work anymore. The people have spoken out. On February 17th, or even 2 days before that, people went to the street and said, enough is enough. You have to leave. We want our rights. We want to establish that. So the civil war possibilities is not even existent, in my opinion. And I think it's reflected in the reality today. When you look at this, is the 7th day since the first protest in Benghazi in front of the courthouse, in front of the security prison. Sorry. When you look at that, the possibility of civil war is not reflected in any of the actions taken. When you see the military leaders who have defected, the diplomats who have defected, the tribal leaders who have defected and are now leading the cities who are completely rid of Gaddafi's security forces, these people are talking about Libya. I just heard a few minutes ago Suleiman Mahmoud, who is the general leading the army in the city of Tobruk. Okay, he's one of the most influential people in the military. He's a retired general now, but he's still very influential. He made it very clear in his speech when he is now stepping on the side of the people, stepping out of Gaddafi's shadow with the people. He is talking about Libya, not his tribe, not Tobruk. The same thing from Mustafa Abdul Jalil, who was the former Minister of Justice. He is talking about Libya. All these tribal leaders, everyone is talking about Libya. So there is no civil war as long as Gaddafi's not there.
Mr. Abdullah, we're running out of time. I want to get a final thought from Nouri al-Mismari. Mr. al-Mismari, does it embarrass or shame you that Libya, it seems, is forever synonymous with Muammar al-Gaddafi and that he is the chief symbol of the nation?
Well, first of all, I would like just to say something before. I do agree 100% of what Mr. Mohammed Ali Abdullah was saying. There is no civil war in Libya. If there will be Libyan against Libyan, it's only for the simple reason will be Libyans, the pure Libyans of the people, against the supporter, which they were fighting and struggling for their survival, so not to be judged when he falls down. So as he said to you, Suleiman Mahmoud, General Suleiman Mahmoud, and Mustafa, the Minister of Justice, and Abdul Fattah Yunus, the Commander-in-Chief of the commandos and paratroopers, and he was a Minister of Interior, they left. They were not talking about their tribes. They were talking about Libya. We are never divided. There never have been or never happened in the history that Libyans were against Libyans. That will never happen again. But that he's trying to do to divide us so he can be in power. But this will not happen. But I feel very, very ashamed to have such a leader killing his people with mercenaries. There is I mean, why, what for? Just to be in the power? He said, I am not in power. Why he doesn't go down? As Mr. Muhammad Ali was saying, enough is enough.
Okay.
You must step down.
Okay.
If you ask me to step down, I will step down.
Mr. al-Mismari, on that note, we'll leave it there. We have run out of time. Thank you very much for joining us from Paris, Nouri al-Mismari and Mohammed Ali Abdullah from London. It was a great pleasure speaking to both of you, gentlemen. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. As always, we welcome your comments, your suggestions, or your questions. You can email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Bye-bye.
The times change. The instruments evolve. The battlegrounds shift.
This is America! Our country!
But the international struggle continues.
He was murdered!
uncompromising, hard-hitting investigations.
I can't get no justice from no one in Jamaica.
People and power, at this time on Al Jazeera.
The Golan Heights, one of the spoils of the 1967 war, home to 20,000 Israelis and source of 1/3 of all Israel's water. But what of the Syrians left behind? With families torn apart and all borders closed, they come to talk to their loved ones across the Shouting Valley. Across the Shouting Valley on Al Jazeera. Personal blogs by professional journalists. blogs.aljazeera.net.
All the news, all the time. aljazeera.net/English.
People talk about televising the revolution. It's tweeting the revolution, Facebooking the revolution, videotaping the revolution.
A new world driven by new media.
This is a very peculiar moment in media history.
Nobody can force me in 2011 to watch whatever I don't want to watch.
Analyzing the media's role in shaping modern history. The Listening Post, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Afghanistan is faced with a huge challenge.
Relations have gone really sour between us and our allies.
We have inflicted considerable damage on the enemy.
The people who make international headlines.
Ultimately, the truth will out.
They want to stop this publication of information that embarrasses them.
Make time for Sir David Frost. Frost over the world. At this time on Al Jazeera.
Anti-government protesters ride on tanks in the Libyan city of Misrata. Muammar Gaddafi appears to be losing control of western areas of the country. It's 0800 GMT, 10 a.m. in Libya. I'm Imran Garda. You're watching Al Jazeera with live and continuing coverage of the uprising in Libya. The wreckage of a Libyan warplane is discovered. The crew ejected after refusing to bomb protesters.
The suffering and bloodshed is outrageous, and it is unacceptable.
Barack Obama steps up the criticism of the crackdown in Libya. And a lucky survivor, a woman pulled out of the rubble of New Zealand's earthquake. 98 people have died, hundreds more are missing. Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi appears to be losing his grip on power. Protesters now say they've taken control in the east of the country, and they're now planning a push on the capital, Tripoli. Here are the latest developments. President Barack Obama says the US is looking at a full range of options on how to deal with the crisis. Along with European and other nations, officials are considering economic sanctions